Hey everybody, Matt Vincent here with Dean, who you'll know, but we have a new special guest hanging with us for this episode. So this is our friend Natalie Frisk, who we've pastored in the same denominational church world for a while.
A lot of years, yeah.
And Natalie has done a lot of work around curriculum development and is now working with an international company doing development of curriculum, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So we love these times where we can invite trusted friends to come hang out and do what you are going to do with your dinner churches as soon as we're done rambling. Well, as soon as Dean's done rambling.
Please.
Is continue to have the conversations around the passage of Scripture. So continuing in our Sermon on the Mount series, this one is called Schoolyard Bullies, Matthew 5, 38 to 42. So growing up, there's this bully at our school in Toronto when I was in grade 5 and 6. His name was Joel. And
of course.
He was one of those, Is that like a bully name,
I
Joel?
don't know.
Okay.
It feels like it.
Feels like it.
Sorry, Joels.
Yeah, sorry to the Joels. But he was one of those, you never knew what you were going to get. So sometimes we'd play street hockey or baseball, and he was fine. But he would turn, and you wouldn't even see it coming. Now, he was super strong, but he wasn't very fleet of foot. So I was always able to get away. But I do remember this one instance where my friend Matt Smith was not quite as fleet as foot, or got caught unaware by Joel. And we all lived in the same kind of neighborhood away from our school. We would walk that same street, and Joel literally walked Matt home in a headlock the whole way. And I should say that they had been wrestling before, so Matt's, Joel always used to play hockey, so he used to pull his shirt up over it. Yeah. So Matt's shirt was almost partly off. I kind of laugh now, but when you think about it, the trauma that was, it's just terrible. That whole bullying thing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Thankfully, we hopefully are getting better at being able to talk about bullying. This passage from Jesus is a really interesting one because he's talking about people doing things to us and how we respond. And it's not in the normal way we would think, where it's you have heard it said, we're in another one of those teachings from Jesus, and we would think, oh, you get him back. But Jesus, as we've been learning through this series, is constantly flipping things up on its head. So let's chat about this. Dean, how about you kick the convo off here?
Yeah, it's a good one. It's one of those kind of pieces of scripture too where I think regardless maybe of someone's connection to a church community or even affiliation with any kind of church reality growing up, many of us have heard these phrases.
Right.
Turn the other cheek, for sure.
Yeah.
And it is kind of this invitation to not resist evil with retribution and wanting to pay it back. And so for me, it always stands out as something that is kind of one of those culturally known phrases or statements of Jesus, but it's often, I think, misunderstood, even though it's broadly known.
Right.
And we can dive into maybe some of the context and stuff of what was actually going on there. We've talked before in some of the other episodes about the creativity and subversive nature of Jesus.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's really happening here too. But even just when he opens it up with the eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, again, introducing this Old Testament kind of language. And you have heard that it was said, but now I'm telling you. I just want to park back in the Old Testament and recognize even that statement, an eye for an eye, this equal. You do this to me, therefore I get to do this. Right, I'm going to drag you, Joel, now to your house, and then it's equal, and we're done. Even that was progressive in its day.
Absolutely. And you think about the fact of so many people today, I think you hear it everywhere, even if people don't know it's from the Bible even a little bit, right? That Jesus said these things. But you hear somebody talk about an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and they see it as, well, this is my right to vengeance.
Right, it's their justification for thumping you later.
Totally, which contextually, way back when, it actually was God saying okay, let's not overdo this, guys. Let's chill. Joel, let's not your buddy Joel who does the. What do you call that?
Jersey.
Yeah. Jersey Joel, okay, you get to Jersey and back. Joel. You get to Jersey and back. That's it. Not give him a black eye.
Yeah, it was a way of are you saying it was a way of making sure we don't continue to escalate?
Yeah.
It's to keep things proportional.
Yeah. Right. And I think the reality is now when people say that, they're actually meaning it as all right, well, I get to attack now.
Yeah. I get mine. Yeah, totally. And I love that Jesus introduces that, and I think it's important to state that in that time, in the Old Testament context, like that was a huge step forward, rather than like, hey, if you like strike me down or wrong me, like I'll murder your family or something. Like it's just like it levels up, and then the retribution from that is equally leveled up, and you get this like insane culture of violence. And so we often look at the Old Testament and say, oh, it's so violent, I don't know what to do with it, I don't like it, I just want to focus on Jesus. But there is so much in the Old Testament that shows like this moving forward, like, to use a sports analogy, like moving the ball down the field, so to speak. And we have that with Jesus here too, who says not just stopping at like equal retributive violence, but like let's look at how we can even move it further in terms of this peaceable kingdom that he was introducing to his followers.
Yeah. All these episodes, Natalie, as we've been talking, we keep coming back to Jesus doesn't, he doesn't abolish the law,
right,
which we covered a different episode, but he's coming to fulfill it. And he's like, that was okay. And it's time that was like super progressive,
right,
even though it feels so archaic.
Right.
But he's like, no, we can do better, and I'll show you the better way.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating.
Yeah, and I think so much of what is being parsed apart here is the reality that like if in the time of Moses somebody had said, well, actually, we realize that you're all at tribal wars with one another, but
right,
like if we could just turn the other cheek, like we're cool. But we needed that time as a human people to like make our way with ourselves as in society and culture to get to the place where Jesus can say, well, you've heard it said.
Yes.
But now.
I love that because it's almost admitting that was okay, but we now know that ultimately doesn't work either.
Right.
Like that's not going to really change anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, you had your chance, guys.
Could you not just settle? Yeah.
But we know that we all need Jesus. I mean, I do. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
I think you do.
So he uses those three things. Let's chat about that. He says, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, right? So we've talked about that. But then he uses these really three specific examples. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, offer the other cheek. If you're sued in court for your shirt and it's taken from you, give your coat also. And if a soldier demands you to carry his gear 1 mile, carry it too. Can we chat about that? Just let's give some context. Maybe you know where that's from, maybe you don't, but whoever wants to.
Can I start with the cheeky response?
Give us the cheeky.
Quite literally cheeky.
Yes.
Like not these ones.
Yeah.
But like if you're in court and they demand your shirt, give your coat as well. Like we're talking the whole enchilada, right? Like we're like full Monty. This guy has sued you in court, and now you're gonna just say, yeah, you know what?
Take this as
well. Here you go. And it's it's often talked about as heaping kindness on them, which there is that reality potentially, but also it's like, all right, well, here we go. We're gonna go. We're gonna go halfway. We're gonna go take the ball all the way down. Touchdown. And hand that off. So I think it's like such a great. Jesus always does this, right? He always does this like. He leads with love and kindness, but there's always this, you guys have said it already, kind of subversive additional thing going on. And I love that. It takes creativity. And I think a lot of times in our societal contexts, we forget that we can do something, but it just requires us to think outside of the box a little bit. It takes that creativity to actually do some of the things that Jesus talks about.
Yeah.
All these things, the three things, force the person who's kind of doing the action to see the other person in a different light. So now in this instance, the shirt and the cloak, now I'm standing here naked. You need to see me in a different light. It stops the moment in its tracks.
I love that.
Yeah. And in a culture that is very steeped in like honor and shame, the person who for whatever the situation was, whether it was valid or not, the person who is or would have been in the position of shame, being accused of something and then convicted and being like, hand over your coat. Right? If we're thinking in the context here that it is maybe like a false accusation or some sort of injustice, a power imbalance where someone says, well, you know what, I have the power and ability to take you to court and to go through this legal whatever rigmarole. Now, the shame is upon the person standing there with the cloak and the undershirt or shirt. And the naked person is kind of like, well, you kind of created this scenario.
Yeah.
And so again, it kind of like flips the whole power imbalance to the point now where, using our kind of imagination, the person who is holding this cloak and tunic would be like, take it, cover up.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, like, my goodness.
Have your clothes back
Yeah,
already.
yeah,
Like,
this
and
is just shameful.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I love that within that system, Jesus is giving a way to achieve his, like, that purpose of kind of righting that wrong within the structure of that system. It's not like, oh, burn the whole thing down. It's like, no, find the creative, subversive ways within the structures that are created to like have that outcome where the solution is like solved. Yeah. What about the other?
What about
like,
the cheek one?
The cheekiest one. Do we want to dive into that?
Yeah.
The slap.
Yeah. So I'll just make sure I'm saying the right words. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, offer the other cheek. So in a culture where right-handed people were dominant, to slap someone on the right cheek means you're backhanding them. Am I getting the angles right here? Yes.
Yeah.
So to turn the other cheek forces a frontward, which a backhand would be like against a slave or someone who's inferior. It's like a demeaning
Women,
thing.
children, right?
But this is like as an equal. If you're going to hit me and see me as an equal here.
Right.
Again, it's flipping it, and it's like, if you're going to hit me, you're going to see me for who I am.
Yes.
And that, again, I feel like, Jesus, like, genius.
Oh, man.
Like, the change that forces then, and the flipping of power to offer your, like, are you really going to hit me?
Right.
Don't backhand me as if I'm nothing. See me as an image bearer also of God.
Right.
And here I am.
Well, and Walter Wink, who's done a great deal of work on like context, and I think we're all kind of borrowing from some of his some of his commentary and work. Like, he also explains, like, it's even maybe more of a cheeky response, because you wouldn't, some of us may be wondering, well, like, why wouldn't they just backhand him with the left hand?
Right.
Well, you often didn't use your left hand for that kind of stuff because it was used for something, in private.
Something else.
In the washroom.
Yes.
Say no more. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, do tell.
I'm not following, Dean.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's just say the left hand was unclean. Not so much hand sanitizer rolling around back in the day.
No, exactly.
And so you wouldn't use your left hand. So to turn the other cheek literally invited that person to have to see you as an equal, or recognize that they're in this position and you have essentially frozen them and stopped them and confronted again, using the cultural systems and structures of the day to expose the injustice and portray that person as like in the wrong.
Yeah.
And it flips the power once again.
Yeah.
And I love it too, because I think, for us, when reading that through a lens of our current time and place in the world, you can see it as not just maybe an almost defiant thing, but like a lovingly defiant thing. Like, what I'm actually forcing you to do in a loving Jesus inviting you to do is see me as an image bearer of, right? Like, you actually have to see me. It's not just a dismissive slap. It's a, no, here I am.
Yes.
Here I am, see me. Which actually I think, and the person might not feel this way, but I think it invites the other individual to like loving accountability. Because there is. It's like, no, I'm inviting you to see me without violence, without responding in a, but I'm inviting you to see me as an image bearer. Then what does that do to the
fascinating.
Yeah. These stories, like, we obviously think of them in their appropriate historical context, but it doesn't take much of a leap to see the humanity on display and the invitation or the challenge even for people to see human beings as human beings in our more modern world. I think of like in the United States, like the sit-ins from the civil rights movement, and like, no, we're gonna come and sit at the lunch counter and you're gonna have to drag us out of here. And it exposes how absurd this like racialized system was, right? And we can think of countless, even in Canada, we don't need to go into all of it, but we can think of opportunities where people have stood in the gap and shown their humanity, and we're like, oh, and it just makes the oppressive side, which often is unchecked and unseen, it's just the way things are, it really exposes it for how awful and really evil it is and can be.
Well, these things feel like they're weak statements. You could be like, oh, you're such a wimp. Like, you're going to let them hit you again. You're going to let them take all your clothes. Or in the soldier one, you're gonna go farther than you're forced to carrying his gear. Like how weak. But it's such a power move.
Yeah.
It's like you have guts to do that. Think about the court one. Like that's okay. Seriously, or you might get hit again.
Yeah.
Like it's so brave.
Yeah.
It's not doing nothing. It's really taking control of you're taking it back.
And the physicality, I mean, of the soldier one, carrying their stuff, like, I forget what the actual weight was of the armor, but it was ridiculous.
Right.
And if you're somebody who, maybe is not fully up to nourishment standards or things like that, that's gonna really weigh on you.
Yeah.
To go the extra mile literally is gonna take so much energy and so much force, but to be able to do that, it's like,
yeah,
like,
it's amazing.
It kind of gives you back that level of humanity as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, like in that situation, the context there is like a Roman soldier was permitted to ask any of the subjects of the places that they occupied to carry their pack, which was, however heavy it was, to carry their pack for a mile, but no more. That was the legal requirement. And so to go further, you can imagine this poor, maybe peasant or farmer or just person who is a subject of occupation is now forced to carry this pack, and at the 1 mile mark on the Roman road keeps going. It's like no, like I'll carry it further. All of a sudden the power switches in an instant, and the soldier's like no,
they must be wondering like, wait, what?
Give me, you have to give me that back, because they will then get in trouble if they are seen as forcing someone to go the extra mile, right? Yeah. And so again, just so beautifully and wonderfully, like that subversive nature is taken and the power imbalance is flipped.
Yeah, there's that idea that the gospel of Jesus sparks curiosity. And I could imagine in this one that we're talking about, like the soldier must be like in a powerful way demanding a carrying. But then you remember, they're also now walking for 2 miles together. So I don't know, maybe the first mile there's no conversation. But if someone carries on, that would spark lots of questions. Yeah. We've seen that in other gospel stories where even at the crucifixion scene, just what's happening leads people to wonder, what's happening here? You remember the soldier there says, surely this must be the son of... Like, the gospel sparks imagination and curiosity. And I wonder in a scenario like that, like, wait, you're going to carry a whole second mile. Maybe now there's a conversation. Maybe there's a curiosity. Like, I just think it undoes all that sense of power and control. It's like the genius of Jesus here. Amazing.
Well, totally, and that's the thing, because like whether it's like a kind of like a happy curiosity or like a frantic curiosity, like the question is, what are you doing?
What the heck?
Why are you doing this? Give me my pack. Oh no, like I want to go the extra mile for you, and I want to help you out and serve you. Whatever the answers would be, it'd be like, why? No, you're going to get me in trouble. It's like,
well, and I think in all of these scenarios, when some element of kindness trumps revenge, like when that is happening, you want to, why would you do this? What would be the possible impulse to carry my equipment an extra mile? Literally, nothing makes sense.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And so if you're in that context, if you're, even just to get the, what's the thing that gets rolling? Your thoughts start to roll. This is this is really going well for me, guys. Just when the ideas start to even fumble through the mind, even if the conversation wasn't sparked, surely that soldier is going,
wait a second.
Heck? What is going on? Who is this guy? And maybe later on down the road he goes, who are those people in that town?
What was that all about?
That might spark and beyond that, it sparks conversation with people outside of the sphere to go, they're different.
Yes.
And maybe it's a good kind of different, we're not sure.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
They're different in some way.
Let's leave it here, just for the sake of time, throw it over. I mean, I feel like that sometimes when I pick Dean at the airport and he has all his bags and all his product and clothes, and I'm like, don't worry, I'll carry it the extra mile of the car. But anyways, over to you, friends at your dinner churches. Continue to have great conversation. Thanks for tracking with us. And we'll pick up the next part of the Sermon on the Mount in our next episode. Peace.